The rain poured heavily, drenching the cemetery in a cold, merciless downpour. The sky, covered in thick gray clouds, mirrored the storm raging inside her heart. She stood still, her black coat clinging to her body, her fingers clenched tightly around the umbrella handle. The world around her was silent, except for the soft patter of raindrops hitting the marble tombstone in front of her. She took a deep breath, her chest rising and falling with the weight of emotions that had been buried for years. Her lips curled into a bitter smile as she traced the engraved name with the tip of her fingers. The name of the man she had once loved. The man she had trusted more than anyone in the world. The man who had betrayed her in the most unforgivable way. "I hope you rot in hell," she whispered, her voice carrying the weight of years filled with pain, humiliation, and despair. Memories flashed through her mind like a cruel film on replay. The laughter of the man she had called her husband as he held another woman in his arms. The way he had stripped her of everything she had worked for, leaving her broken and discarded like a worthless object. The smug smirk on his face when she begged for the truth, only to be met with cold indifference. He had chosen a scandalous student over her. He had thrown away years of love and loyalty as if they meant nothing. He had crushed her soul under the weight of his betrayal and walked away without looking back. But fate had given her another chance. A chance to rewrite her story. A chance to make those who had wronged her pay for their sins. Maya had always believed in love. She had spent years building a life with the man she thought was her soulmate. She had met Daniel during her university days, a charming and ambitious professor whose intellect and confidence had drawn her in. He had a way with words, making promises that felt like poetry, painting a future so bright that Maya had never once questioned it. She had given him her heart without hesitation, believing that their love was unbreakable. She had been wrong. Maya was a woman of grace and kindness, always putting others before herself. She had supported Daniel through every challenge, standing beside him as he climbed the ranks in his academic career. She had helped him build his reputation, proofread his research papers late into the night, and stood in the background while he took all the credit. She had sacrificed her own dreams to be the perfect wife, ensuring that Daniel had everything he needed to succeed. And for years she believed he loved her for it. But love, she learned, could be an illusion. A beautifully woven lie that shattered the moment it was tested. It started subtly, small cracks in the foundation of their marriage that Maya was too blinded by love to see. Daniel became distant, his affectionate words replaced with cold indifference. He started coming home late, excusing his absence with endless meetings and work obligations. The warmth in his eyes slowly faded, replaced by something unreadable, something secretive. Then came Sophia, a bright, young student in Daniel's class, ambitious and eager to make a name for herself. She was everything Maya was not, young, bold, and unafraid to chase after what she wanted. And what she wanted was Daniel. Maya noticed the change immediately. The way Daniel's eyes lit up when Sophia was around, the hushed conversations, the lingering glances. At first, she convinced herself that she was imagining things. She told herself that Daniel was simply mentoring a student, nothing more. But deep down, a seed of doubt had already been planted. Then one evening the illusion shattered. Maya had come home early from an event, exhausted but eager to see her husband. She had wanted to surprise him, to rekindle the connection that had been slipping away. Instead, she walked into their bedroom and found him there, with Sophia. The laughter between them died instantly, replaced by a heavy silence that crushed Maya's chest like a boulder. Daniel did not look guilty. He did not even flinch. He simply stared at her, his expression unreadable, as Sophia slowly got up from the bed, adjusting the sheets around her. The betrayal was suffocating, an invisible hand squeezing the life out of Maya's lungs. Her hands trembled, her mind struggling to process what she was seeing. "I can explain," Daniel finally said, but his tone was not desperate or remorseful. It was cold, calculated, as if he had already rehearsed this moment in his mind. Maya wanted to scream, wanted to ask him why he had done this, why he had thrown away their years of love for a fleeting affair. But before she could find her voice, Daniel spoke again, and his words cut through her like a blade. "This is your fault, Maya." Her fault. The words echoed in her mind, bouncing off the walls of her breaking heart. Daniel did not apologize. He did not beg for forgiveness. Instead, he tore her down piece by piece, accusing her of being dull, of being too predictable, of holding him back. He told her that he had found someone who understood him better, someone who inspired him, someone younger. Maya could hardly breathe. The man she had built her life around, the man she had loved more than anything, had not only betrayed her but blamed her for it. And as if that was not enough, he was not finished. The betrayal did not end with an affair. It became something far worse. Daniel, fearing the consequences of his actions, did what he did best: manipulated the situation in his favor. He painted Maya as the villain, twisting the narrative until she was the one who looked guilty. He spread rumors, telling colleagues and friends that Maya was unstable, that she had been sabotaging his career out of jealousy. And people believed him. She lost everything. Her reputation was dragged through the mud. Her name whispered in hushed voices at every social gathering. Friends who had once admired her turned their backs, unwilling to be associated with a woman branded as bitter and vengeful. Even her own family hesitated, unsure of what to believe. Then came the final blow. Daniel accused her of theft, claiming that she had stolen from his personal accounts in a desperate attempt to ruin him. He had planted false evidence, ensuring that when the authorities came knocking, Maya had no way to defend herself. The humiliation was unbearable. The betrayal was complete. And in the end, she was left with nothing. She had once been a woman of dignity and grace. Now, she was nothing more than a broken soul wandering through the ruins of her life. The world had turned its back on her, and so she turned her back on the world. On a cold, lonely night, standing at the edge of a rooftop, Maya made her final choice. The pain was too much. The betrayal had crushed her beyond repair. She had spent her life giving everything to others, only to be discarded like she never mattered. As she took her last breath, a single tear slid down her cheek. She closed her eyes and let the darkness take her. But fate was not done with her yet. The sensation of falling was endless, like being pulled into an abyss with no end. Cold air rushed past her, wrapping around her like invisible hands dragging her deeper into the void. There was no ground, no sky, only an overwhelming emptiness swallowing her whole. Maya felt nothing, no pain, no fear, just a deep, hollow sense of release. For the first time in a long time, she let go. And then, suddenly, everything stopped. A sharp gasp tore from her lips as she bolted upright, her chest rising and falling rapidly as though she had been drowning and had just broken through the surface of the water. Her fingers clutched the fabric of the blanket beneath her, her body trembling. Her heart pounded, the rhythm uneven and frantic. The room around her was dimly lit, the soft glow of a bedside lamp casting warm light onto familiar surroundings. Familiar. The realization hit her like a wave. She knew this room. The dark wooden dresser, the neatly arranged bookshelves, the soft scent of lavender lingering in the air. Her eyes darted around, desperate to confirm what her mind refused to believe. This was her bedroom, the one she had shared with Daniel before everything fell apart. Her breath hitched as she scrambled out of bed, her bare feet touching the cool hardwood floor. Every corner of the room was exactly as she remembered, untouched by time. A mirror hung on the wall across from her, and as she stepped closer, her reflection sent a chill down her spine. She looked younger. Her hands flew to her face, fingertips brushing against smooth skin, free of the exhaustion and sorrow that had once weighed her down. Her hair, long and thick, cascaded over her shoulders, untouched by the stress that had once dulled its shine. Her eyes, wide with disbelief, stared back at her, searching for an answer to the impossible. Her mind spun, fragments of memories clashing violently. The betrayal, the humiliation, the night she had taken her final breath. She had died. She had felt the air leave her lungs, the silence swallowing her whole. There was no mistaking it. Yet here she was, alive. A shudder ran through her as realization settled deep within her bones. She had been reborn. Her fingers trembled as she gripped the edge of the dresser, struggling to steady herself. Her mind raced, piecing together the impossible truth. This was not a dream. It was not some cruel trick of her imagination. She was back in the past before everything had gone wrong. Before Daniel's betrayal. Before she had lost everything. The weight of it all pressed against her chest, suffocating and overwhelming. She was trapped between two realities, one where she had been broken beyond repair and one where she had the chance to change everything. A knock on the door made her jump. "Maya, are you awake?" Voice. Deep, familiar, and filled with a warmth that had long since faded in her memories. Her breath caught in her throat. She knew that voice. Daniel. For a moment she stood frozen, her heart hammering against her ribs. How many years had it been since she had heard him speak to her like that? Since he had said her name without the weight of disgust or indifference. The door creaked open and he stepped inside. There he was, standing before her, looking exactly as he had all those years ago. Not the cold, ruthless man who had thrown her away, but the Daniel she had once loved. His dark eyes held no secrets, his features unmarred by betrayal. He looked at her with concern, his brows slightly furrowed. "Maya, are you feeling all right?" he asked softly. She could only stare, her mind at war with itself. The man in front of her was not yet the monster he would become. He had not yet ruined her. He had not yet taken everything from her. But he would. Memories of the future crashed into her like a raging storm. The lies, the deceit, the way he had framed her, destroyed her, left her to rot in the ruins of the life they had built together. A slow, burning anger began to rise within her, replacing the shock that had paralyzed her moments ago. She had loved this man with everything she had. She had given him her trust, her devotion, her entire soul. And in return, he had crushed her without a second thought. But now she had been given a second chance. A chance to rewrite her story. A chance to ensure that he would never have the opportunity to destroy her again. She forced herself to smile, pushing down the rage simmering beneath the surface. "I am fine," she said softly, her voice steady despite the storm raging within her. "I just had a strange dream." Daniel's expression relaxed, and he chuckled. "You scared me for a moment." He stepped closer, reaching out to touch her shoulder. The moment his fingers brushed against her skin, an involuntary shiver ran down her spine. She used to find comfort in his touch. Now it only made her sick. He had no idea. No idea that she had seen the future. No idea that she knew exactly what he was capable of. No idea that she was no longer the same woman who had once worshipped the ground he walked on. This time, she would not be the naive, loving wife who blindly trusted him. This time she would not be the victim. Maya took a deep breath, locking away the emotions threatening to consume her. She would not act rashly. She would not allow her anger to dictate her next move. If she wanted revenge, she needed to be smart. She needed to be careful. She needed to play the long game. She looked up at Daniel, her smile never faltering. "Everything is fine," she repeated, this time with more certainty. He had no idea what was coming for him. Maya had always believed that love was built on trust, but trust had been her greatest weakness. She had handed her heart to Daniel without hesitation, believing that he would cherish it. Instead, he had crushed it beneath his feet, laughing as she suffered. But this time things would be different. She was not the same woman who had once cried herself to sleep, begging for answers. She was no longer the devoted wife who had sacrificed everything for a man who never deserved her love. This time she would be the one in control. The first step was simple: she had to change. Maya knew that if she suddenly became cold and distant, Daniel would suspect something was wrong. He had always been perceptive when it came to controlling people, using their emotions against them like a skilled manipulator. If she wanted to succeed, she needed to become someone he would never doubt. so she played her role flawlessly. She continued to smile at him, her voice as gentle as it had always been. She prepared his morning coffee just the way he liked it, laughed at his jokes, and kissed him good night as if nothing had changed. But behind the mask of a loving wife, she was watching, listening, and planning. Every conversation, every interaction, every detail. She stored it all away, building a case against him piece by piece. She began going through his belongings when he was not around. His desk drawers, his emails, even his phone when he left it unattended. Daniel had always been careless, too arrogant to believe that Maya would ever suspect him of anything. He thought she was blind. He thought she was weak. He had no idea that she had already seen his future, the monstrous things he would do, the lies he would tell. But she would not allow history to repeat itself. Then there was Sophia. Maya had been too naive the first time, brushing away the warning signs, telling herself that Daniel would never betray her. But now, she knew exactly what Sophia was capable of. She knew that beneath the innocent smiles and soft words was a woman willing to destroy anything in her path to get what she wanted. But Maya would not let her win this time. She began digging into Sophia's past, searching for weaknesses, secrets, anything that could be used against her. It did not take long to find them. Sophia had always been careful, presenting herself as an ambitious and hard-working student. But ambition, when unchecked, often left behind a trail of mistakes. Maya discovered the hidden affairs, the whispered rumors about professors who had mysteriously favored her in the past. She found inconsistencies in her academic records, proof that Sophia had manipulated her way to the top. Maya knew that to bring her down, she needed to be subtle. She could not afford to be reckless. Sophia was smart, and if she realized someone was working against her, she would become more cautious. So Maya set her traps quietly, ensuring that Sophia would not see them until it was too late. She planted seeds of doubt in the minds of professors, mentioning Sophia's suspicious rise in passing, as though she was simply making an observation. She left anonymous notes with hints about Sophia's past, allowing the rumors to spread on their own. She ensured that key figures in the academic world started questioning whether Sophia was truly as brilliant as she claimed to be. And slowly, the cracks began to show. Sophia found herself facing unexpected scrutiny. Professors who once praised her began to hesitate. Fellow students whispered behind her back, wondering if the rumors were true. The very foundation she had built her success upon was beginning to crumble, and she had no idea who was behind it. But Maya was not done. Daniel had spent years building a perfect reputation, charming his way into the good graces of colleagues, friends, and powerful figures. He had always known how to manipulate people, ensuring that when the time came, they would defend him without question. That was why, when he destroyed Maya's life the first time, no one had stood by her side. He had already made sure she had no allies. But now she would take everything from him. Maya began attending social gatherings with a new purpose. She was no longer the quiet, devoted wife who stood in the background while Daniel basked in the spotlight. She spoke with confidence, engaging in conversations that placed her at the center rather than the sidelines. She built connections with influential people, earning their trust, making them see her as someone valuable. And she made sure that Daniel noticed. At first, he was amused, thinking it was nothing more than a phase. But then he saw the way people started gravitating toward her. He noticed how colleagues who once only acknowledged her as his wife now sought her opinion. The balance of power was shifting, and for the first time, Daniel felt something unfamiliar, unease. Then, she began planting doubt in the minds of those closest to him. She never spoke against him directly, never accused him of anything. Instead, she let people draw their own conclusions. A simple sigh when someone mentioned his success, a hesitant pause before offering praise, a fleeting look of concern when discussing his work. It was enough. People believed what they wanted to believe, and with just the right amount of suggestion, they began to see Daniel in a different light. He had spent years ensuring that Maya had no allies. Now it was he who was losing them. And as she watched him struggle to hold onto his carefully constructed image, Maya felt something she had not felt in a long time. Power. This time she was not the one being broken. This time she was the one holding the strings. The night was alive with whispers, a symphony of hushed conversations and stolen glances. The grand hall, adorned with golden chandeliers and velvet drapes, was filled with the most influential figures in the academic and social world. Professors, business leaders, and journalists, all gathered under one roof, unaware that they were about to witness the fall of a man they once admired. Maya stood near the entrance, her posture poised, her expression unreadable. She had planned this moment carefully, ensuring that every detail was in place. Tonight, the truth would no longer be a secret. Tonight, Daniel would face the consequences of his actions, and there would be no escape. She could see him across the room, effortlessly charming those around him, flashing the same confident smile that had once deceived her. He was completely unaware of the storm about to consume him. Sophia stood beside him, laughing at something he whispered in her ear, oblivious to the fact that she was merely a piece in his twisted game. Maya took a deep breath, steadying herself. There was no room for hesitation. This was the moment she had been waiting for. The sound of a microphone being tapped echoed through the hall, and all eyes turned toward the stage. A well-respected journalist stood at the podium, smiling as he prepared to introduce the next speaker. Maya had ensured that he was one of the few who had received the anonymous documents exposing Daniel's crimes. He had been skeptical at first, but the evidence had been undeniable. And now he was about to present it to the world. "Ladies and gentlemen," the journalist began, his voice steady. "Tonight, we gather to celebrate academic excellence, but we must also acknowledge the responsibility that comes with power and influence. It is our duty to seek the truth, no matter how difficult it may be to face." A ripple of curiosity spread through the crowd, and Maya could see Daniel's smile falter ever so slightly. He sensed that something was wrong, but it was too late. "Recent investigations have uncovered shocking misconduct within our esteemed academic institutions," the journalist continued. "Misconduct that involves deception, corruption, and abuse of power." Maya stepped forward just as a large screen behind the journalist lit up. Images and documents appeared. Emails, bank transactions, hidden communications. The undeniable proof of Daniel's corruption. His illicit affairs, the students he had manipulated, the lies he had told. Gasps filled the hall. Murmurs of disbelief and outrage spread like wildfire. Faces that had once looked at Daniel with admiration now turned to him with suspicion and disgust. Sophia's eyes widened as she read the evidence flashing across the screen. She turned to Daniel, her face pale, her voice barely a whisper. "What is this? Tell me this is not real." Daniel's hands clenched into fists, his entire body tense. For the first time, he had no words, no lies to smooth over the chaos unfolding around him. Maya stepped forward, her voice calm but powerful. "It is all real, Sophia. Every single word, every single transaction. You thought you were special, did you not? You thought you were different." She let out a cold laugh. "You were just another pawn, just like I was." Sophia stumbled back, shaking her head. "No. He told me he loved me. He told me." "He told you what he needed to," Maya interrupted. "Just as he told me. Just as he told every other woman before you." The weight of the truth crushed Sophia, and she collapsed into a chair, her hands trembling. The realization was written all over her face. She had never been the exception. She had been nothing more than a tool in Daniel's endless pursuit of power and pleasure. Security guards moved through the crowd as the journalist continued speaking, revealing more details of Daniel's fraudulent dealings, the hidden accounts, the students whose futures had been destroyed because of him. Then the final blow landed, the announcement of an official investigation and an arrest warrant. Daniel's face drained of color. "This is ridiculous," he spat, his voice laced with desperation. "These are fabricated lies." "Are they?" Maya asked, stepping closer. "Tell me, Daniel, can you explain the money transfers?" the falsified academic records, the complaints from students that mysteriously disappeared. She tilted her head, watching him squirm. Or will you continue to lie, even now when the entire world is watching? Silence stretched between them. The weight of his sins bore down on him, and for the first time, he had no escape. Then the officers stepped forward. Daniel Carter, you are under arrest for fraud, misconduct, and abuse of power. You have the right to remain silent. No, Daniel growled, stepping back. You cannot do this. This is all her doing. He pointed a shaking finger at Maya. His mask of composure shattered. She set me up. She is lying. Maya did not flinch. She met his gaze, her expression unwavering. You did this to yourself, Daniel. I only made sure the world saw the truth. The moment the handcuffs clicked around his wrists, the finality of it sank in. Daniel Carter, the man who had once stood above everyone else, who had ruined lives without a second thought, was now reduced to nothing more than a disgraced criminal. As he was led away, Maya let out a slow breath. She had done it. The nightmare was over. The people who had once ignored her suffering now whispered her name with admiration. The woman who had been humiliated and destroyed had risen from the ashes, stronger than ever. Sophia, still in shock, looked up at her with tear-filled eyes. What happens to me now? Maya studied her for a long moment before answering. That depends on you. Will you be another victim? Or will you learn from this and become someone better? Without waiting for a response, she turned and walked away. As Maya stepped outside, the cold night air wrapped around her, but for the first time in years, she did not feel the chill. She felt free. She had spent so long trapped in the shadows of betrayal and pain, but now she stood in the light. Not as a victim. Not as the woman Daniel had destroyed. She was Maya Carter. And she had won. The world felt different now. The weight that had once pressed against Maya's chest, suffocating her with every breath, was gone. For the first time in years, she could stand tall without the burden of betrayal crushing her spirit. She had fought, she had suffered, and she had won. But victory was not just about seeing Daniel fall. It was about reclaiming herself, the person she had been before his lies had stolen everything from her. She walked through the quiet streets, the night air crisp against her skin. There was no fear in her steps, no hesitation in her heart. The past no longer held power over her. She was no longer the woman who had begged for love from a man who only knew how to destroy. She had broken free. In the days that followed, the world continued to watch the aftermath of Daniel's downfall. His face was plastered across news articles. His crimes dissected in every headline. Former colleagues distanced themselves, students spoke out, and the very foundation he had built his life upon crumbled beneath him. There was no redemption for a man like him, no path back to the life he had so carefully crafted. Sophia disappeared from the public eye. Whether she was ashamed or simply afraid of the consequences, Maya did not know. But she no longer cared. Sophia had made her choices, just as Maya had made hers. And in the end, they had both paid the price for trusting the wrong man. But unlike Sophia, Maya was not lost. She had found something far more valuable than revenge. She had found herself. She spent the next few weeks in quiet reflection, allowing herself to heal in ways she never had before. She no longer woke up with the ghost of Daniel's betrayal haunting her dreams. She no longer felt the sting of old wounds that had refused to close. Instead, she felt peace. One afternoon, she stood by the river, watching the water flow endlessly, carrying away the fallen leaves. It reminded her of life itself, constantly moving, never stopping, always changing. She had been caught in the currents before, drowning in sorrow and regret. But now she had learned how to swim. A familiar voice broke through her thoughts. You look different. Maya turned to see an old friend, someone who had once stood by her before Daniel had poisoned every relationship she had. There was no judgment in their eyes, no pity, only warmth. I feel different, Maya admitted, a small smile playing on her lips. Her friend studied her for a moment before nodding. So what happens now? Maya looked out at the horizon, the sun beginning to set in brilliant hues of orange and gold. For so long, she had lived her life according to someone else's rules, trapped in the expectations of a love that had never truly been love at all. But now she was free to choose. She exhaled softly, the final remnants of her past slipping away with the wind. Now, she said, her voice steady and sure, I start over. On my terms. As she walked away from the river, from the pain, from the version of herself that had once been broken beyond recognition, she felt lighter than she ever had before. This time she chose herself.